And we are live, and this is, let's see, with the Beautiful Destiny, myself, Speed of Sound. This is, I'm hoping to be a long series called Dear John, ... where we are going to take a look at the genius, genetics, and science of John Maddox on logical, plausible, and probable. Is that what it is?
I don't know. Nothing he says is logical to me, so I'm not sure if I should.
I mean, the way he presents himself as such a stunning genius, and you know, he's a quick study too, because he picked this stuff up really fast, and he knows more than most actual geneticists and evolutionary biologists, and it's kind of amazing. And he had Dr. Dan Stern Cardinal on his channel the other night. And that's the video that we're going to go through. If I could share the screen and hit the audio button, we'll see what we get. What do you think we'll get? Oh my goodness. You know, there we go. It's kind of hard to find things in this big list of long things. How's that?
Nice. Let's see. Does the audio work?
Well, I think I clicked that button. Let's try it out.
I'm with you, man.
How is that?
Yep, that works.
Audio good? Okay. So this is where Dr. Dan enters. And that's not working
Your
anymore.
chat nemesis is or has arrived.
You know, why do I feel like you don't like me, John?
I don't have a problem with you, man. I'm talking about things from a okay, so Erica says give her 5 minutes. Okay.
All right, cool.
All right, so go ahead, Dan.
Well, so first of all, I enjoyed the heck out of that conversation. I thought that was a lot of fun to listen to. The only thing, and I say this, you know, every time I'm here, and thank you for having me, but I want to keep this short. The only thing I really want to say, though, is the thing that disappoints me is that I constantly hear arguments from creationists that are like not the best versions of the arguments you could be making. And the two examples that I could think of from Smokey this evening was the second law of thermodynamics and the no information that specifically the claim was that all mutations result in a loss of, I forget the exact wording. I don't know if he said information or function or something. And like, that's just obviously not true. We can like observe mutations that create novel traits without any cost to pre-existing traits. So like, you can make arguments based on like, well, informations are more likely to break something than make something new. Most mutations won't do anything new. Like, you can make versions of that argument that are valid.
I'm sorry, Dan, I don't know if you understood my argument. It was more like, do you have an example of anywhere where information gets better with time, or does it degrade as it's transcribed? That was
I mean,
no, that wasn't his argument at all.
Question though, I mean, yeah, we have lots of examples like that we've observed directly.
Yeah. So it starts to go off the rails real quick here, where they completely misunderstand what he was saying, I think. But
I can imagine. He's just opened Pandora's box.
Where you get new stuff, and the new stuff persists.
No, I know new stuff, but I know
new information.
Okay,
Like what, Dan?
Like what? Can you give me an example?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
What is new stuff?
What's that?
Smokey just admitted that it does occur. Now he wants an example?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Why would you agree to it if you don't know an example? Oh, God. Okay.
Yep. Say pause when you want me to pause, because it's hard for me to discern the sound, because you're coming in kind of weak. The sound is very loud out here. Is the video too loud?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
An example. What would you like? Would you like a new protein? Would you like a new active site for an enzyme or a protein? A new biochemical function? Like,
well, I mean, like a brand new protein that's never existed, or a new protein being used? What are you saying?
A new protein that has never existed before.
Hang on. We have to make a clarification here. That never existed before. That came from complete scratch?
I mean, define complete scratch. We're talking about
Yeah.
No, not from complete script. Oh my God, John, how did you take a course in MIT genetics? And okay,
Answer is he didn't. He didn't.
things
Are
where
you talking about something that an existing structure that was modified, or one that was built from nothing but random amino acids without?
Random amino acids. What the hell is he talking about?
A nucleus, a ribosome, and other enzymes, resulting in the expression of a previously existing genetic sequence?
I'll give you either.
Okay. No, we're talking about a protein built from random amino acids without a ribosome and other enzymes, resulting in the expression of a previously existing genetic sequence. What in the hell? Can you parse that?
John, I don't even know what the purpose of this question is, because you know that the answer is no, and it's a retarded question.
I don't know what he's asking.
Like, of course, proteins are built from pre-existing proteins that have changed in their structure over time.
Okay, I think what Maddox is trying to get at is he's trying to get at abiogenesis, but he's mixing it up with what Dr.
Maddox is trying to explain, okay, how do you have proteins without the ribosome, kind of thing.
Right. And that's not what
trying to drag it.
And that isn't even the discussion. The discussion is the evolution of a new protein with a new function, and that's what Dr. Dan is talking about. But Maddox is going to talk about context here shortly. So, okay, he says that he doubles down on this ribosome thing, I think, in a second.
You could just randomly form RNA polymers.
No. We're talking about a protein.
Okay, you could just randomly polarize amino acids, and you get
with or without other enzymes and ribosome.
Okay, why is that?
What is he talking about? Other enzymes? Is he talking about? He's talking about ribosomal translation, right?
He's talking about ribosomal pausing, I think.
Yeah, he doesn't say it out loud, but anyway. Dr. Dan is talking about the evolution of the duplication or an existing sequence out there somewhere that ends up getting expressed and has a function and develops into a new enzyme. And he's got an example later on. And Maddox is trying to drag it into abiogenesis, is the way it looks.
Yeah, pretty much.
But listen to his tone of voice. He's talking to a guy here, Rutgers University, okay, with a, let's see, Bachelor of Science from the College of New Jersey and a PhD from Rutgers, right? And this is Maddox, Uber driver, talking to him.
Well, that's not the question, though, is
it? No,
yes,
it is. Yes, in the context of evolution, in the context of what you're talking about here, you said a brand new that never existed protein came into existence. Yes. And I'm saying that has it ever been observed without the pre-existing functions that I'm talking about right now and delineating? Has it? Yes, it is. If something came into existence that never existed before, then it has to have come from an existing structure, or it came from complete scratch. So if it came from existing structure, that's just modification to a pre-existing component. That's not a brand new from scratch function.
That alone tells me you have not taken a lick of biochemistry or a lick of genetics in your freaking life. Right. Because the reason enzymes in proteins are important is because of the reactions that they're able to facilitate. And proteins are mostly characterized based upon the types of functional group interconversions that they can perform. So yes, you can have a new function for a protein, even if it is just modification of some, sites and amino acid. So that claim is absolutely full of crap.
And there are modifications to proteins that end up to the domains that end up with entirely new functions. And then those things turn on, get transcribed sometimes into just RNA, sometimes they get translated and they become proteins and they have some biochemical effect. And they may or may not have something to do with a useful pathway, but over long periods of time, which we cannot fucking observe, over possibly, you know, tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of years, they may end up fitting into a biochemical pathway. We did observe a couple, something with Drosophila, I can't remember. And then I think Dr. Dan talks about H1N1, or I'm not sure, a little later. But I mean, there are examples, just that they're hard. You have to infer them from the past because you cannot see them do this in real time, for Christ's sake. What would we do in order to see evolution in real time? Take a bunch of bugs, put them under, what would we do? You've got to grind them up, right? And they're going to stop evolving. So I mean, he's just an idiot, and he's just being a jerk here.
The thing is, like, is that this really shines just.
Oh, this whole side.
Either, like, it either shines like on the fact of how disingenuous Maddox is as a human being,
yep,
or just how willfully ignorant he is as a human being. Like, regarding the topics of genetics and like protein chemistry.
Yeah, and willfully ignorant is the worst part about it.
Too.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, RJ is in our live comments.
Oh. Hi, RJ. I have to remember to watch the chat.
He's going origins or bust.
Hello, RJ. This is okay. This goes on for an hour. I'm thinking it's going to take us 2 nights.
But we might not even get 5 minutes into this video. God, like,
I know. It's just rich. It's just unbelievable.
So,
and that's a clear delineation in information theory.
That comes from a non-coding
information theory. What was that?
It's something that comes from information theory. I think is what he said. I'm not sure.
Oh no, he's going back to his stack of Royal Society papers, and
well, now he's going to employ canon information with the information in biochemical systems and pretend that they're the same thing.
Yeah, and they do a neat thing here in about 5 minutes, and I can a spoiler is that they're going to equivocate between an insertion and a modification or substitution of nucleotides, and they keep bouncing back, and they keep bouncing them back and forth, and they don't make any sense at all, and it just shows their ignorance. Dear John, you're a fucking idiot.
Region of DNA that gains the ability to be translated, right?
It gains the ability, but you have to delineate what gains the ability. Are we talking about enhancers and promoters coming into being restructured? Are we talking? Hang on. Are we talking about a retrotransposon coming in and now?
What the hell is he talking about?
Okay, we're talking about a gain of information, not a viral infection. We're not talking about a virus inserting its genome into, some host.
Yeah.
That's not what this is. Why are we talking about an insertion event?
He's trying to showcase his knowledge with enhancers and promoters and other ways. I mean, occasionally a retrotransposon can turn a gene on. So, yeah.
Yeah, but he said insertion particularly.
Yeah.
That's
activating.
Go ahead.
No.
Okay.
Please delineate exactly what you mean by it now becomes a functional protein.
A segment of DNA that is transcribed but not translated. Okay. Which we know that happens all the time. Some of it are from transposons. Some of it are not.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on that.
Yeah.
We have examples of that where
with the regulatory variations that came into play, they're now enabling this to be transcribed and translated. Yes or no?
Okay, he's talking about transcribed, not and translated. So he's trying to cram those two together for some reason.
Yeah, he's conflating the two.
Sure, translation is easy. Translation
starts. Okay. This is precious.
Oh, you think it's easy? Really? You think translation is easy? Really?
Yes.
Okay, we all okay up until okay,
Starting-
really?
Yes.
We did not even have the
Wait,
ribosome.
John, you're not
We
even
didn't-
letting me answer the
no.
question.
We didn't even have the ribosome completely mapped out until the
Ribosomes don't do
90s. What do you?
The 90s when John was about 10 years old.
Yeah.
We didn't even have the ribosome completely mapped out. Therefore, I mean, that's 30 years ago, for Christ's sake.
We don't even understand. We were discovering new things about the translation process
Ribosome
as we speak. So don't talk about it being easy, man. We all know it's not easy. If you think it's easy,
All right.
then
Look,
you're living in a fantasy
Do you
land,
like me
man.
to yell at me or to answer the question?
You're living in a fantasy land because I've read very nuanced papers that describe that certain things can happen during translation that make it a little more complicated.
Yeah. So and they're always trying to bring in now he goes back to the 90s, but yet he's always trying to bring in we're discovering new things every day. And yeah, we are. And the reason we are is because the cell is a puddle of mud, and this is a pile of spaghetti code, and there's nothing in it that resembles anything like a computer program. I mean, it's a mess of biochemical craziness all smashing into each other at the same time. And that's why we're discovering new things every day.
No, I'm wanting to make you actually be specific, not general. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm trying to be as specific as possible, but I can't get a sentence out.
He's doing a real good job of specifically starting out with what happened with basically the transcription. And John wants to rush ahead and also bring in abiogenesis with the ribosomes and the enzymes.
So here's the thing. We know of genes where they come from non-coding RNAs. And the thing that made it a translatable sequence is you through mutation get a start codon at the 5' end of that sequence. So it was a non-coding RNA, but it becomes translatable through the appearance of a start codon. And now you can translate it. And that is not a thing that's uncommon. We find those all over the place. Now you can go one step further and you can find sequences that are through random polymerization. Now this is in vitro, not in vivo, but you can just randomly polymerize stuff and you get protein like amino acids and you get proteins that do things. So that step is not hard. Randomized sequences have biochemical activity.
Yeah, and that's the point. The proteins are ubiquitously functional, which is interesting. And I think that's what he's talking about. So in vitro, you can throw together random sequences and they have some biochemical, they can have some activity. If they fold up in a certain, with some helices and some sheets, they can have a domain at the center, and that domain can have a chemical function.
Yep.
And that is something that is why evolution happens, and that is why life has happened, because of the ubiquitous nature of protein function. And something that we are just actually learning more about now. Okay.
The question is it useful? And what we find is that they are well tolerated by cells. They tend not to be harmful.
And the point is here that when these things transcribe and translate, they get torn down if they're not useful. So there's actually in cells, that's why I call it a puddle of mud. There's a massive amount of useless proteins that aren't really contributing to the cell. But on the other hand, they're being tolerated because life is because we have a lot of energy in the cell and they are well tolerated. So that's the point he's trying to make, which goes right over everybody's head here.
When you just make a new polypeptide out of something, and then we know of examples of that. And
You can tell Maddox
papers with examples.
What's that?
You can tell Maddox is getting pissed off just by the way he's going. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He doesn't like this straight talk. Yeah. but Dr. Dan is doing a good job of delineating.
Of that. There's some
Okay.
really
So you're saying
let me
that
finish the sentence.
no,
There's some
hang on.
really described examples
You made a
in
very
yeast,
specific
in
point.
rice and in hominids.
You made a very specific point that it creates something that isn't damaging. Now, there's a massive difference between that and a functional protein.
And
Yeah, John.
It's like you didn't pay attention to what he just said. It's like you
because-
missed your diatribe that just happened.
It's because John is a fucking idiot.
we have examples of that from many species.
Okay. From pure randomization.
Essentially
From pure randomization.
Define pure. I mean, we're talking about a genome, right? So there's.
Okay, that isn't what's being talked about. It doesn't matter what path we took to get here. Whether it was mutations of some segment of DNA that really did nothing before, and that I guess you could kind of call pure randomization. I don't know. Or duplication and mutation. But Maddox is making a point here.
Okay, so the gene isn't random by default. The genome is not random by default. That's the entire point that you're operating from. You're stating that you're saying something that's already has structure and being expressed is random.
Well,
that's the ultimate irony of the point that you're making there.
No, that's not the point at all. Oh my gosh. The point he is making is that proteins have intrinsic biochemical activity, and that when you mutate a certain section, like most sections of DNA or of the amino acid sequence for the protein, it doesn't harm the activity. But what biochemical systems do is they don't care for mutations unless it increases the activity of the protein.
Yeah.
So there's a selective pressure against those mutations occurring unless they increase biochemical activity. That's not saying that the protein, that the genome which comprises the protein is random.
Yeah, it's
it's kind of a question of how do you listen to your interlocutor and get that point out of what was just said.
Maddox has a little nugget. He's got a nut in his pouch. He's like a little squirrel, and he's going for the jugular, and he doesn't care what Dan says. He's going down that path.
Yeah, I think he's doing whatever it's going to take for him to get to this abio point that he wants to hit on, because ultimately, let's be honest, that's where he feels comfortable.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they get off in the information there. I can't remember if he ever brings it back. I'm not sure if I have listened to the entire thing, but it gets worse.
Is we have pre-existing structure that's being expressed randomly. Okay, so up until relatively, recently, we didn't even truly, and we still don't. We were barely understanding the true significance of miRNAs.
Oh, now he's
okay.
Because that's his favorite new thing, right? He thinks he knows something about miRNA.
Yeah.
And do you know what he said in one of his recent videos? He thinks that miRNA can create multiple alternative splicings in proteins during translation. And I have found no evidence of that at all. And he got that from now the thing is, miRNAs are surprising, and we were surprised by miRNAs in like the early 2000s, like not just recently. They were discovered in 1993. I think Drosophila, and then we found more and more of them, and we found out that one miRNA can affect hundreds or a lot of proteins, and they're very significant in development. So they do this by downregulating translation is how they work. And then we found out recently a little more about miRNA, that they can actually be used intracellularly between cells, they're exported and they're ingested by other cells, and they can regulate cells next to them also. So which was interesting. And then we found out that miRNA can actually, before they get out of the nucleus, can have some effects. And I think that's down regulation, but there may be some up regulation. But anyway, Maddox made the mistake of thinking that when he first heard about him in the first video where he talked about him, after he read the first 3 lines of the first paper on miRNA, he decided that when he heard that they affect thousands of genes, he thought they made thousands of genes.
It just goes to show you how well Maddox has done at reading comprehension.
Right. And I'm giving too much of it. There's more to this whole miRNA story with Maddox, and I got to do a video. I got to do this video, but it takes work. So let's see where he's going with miRNA.
Right now, we're starting
different
to.
Topic.
No, I'm talking. No, I'm not changing the topic. I'm making it.
I'm
Okay, you don't know. Okay, you don't know what my point is. You don't know what my point is, Dan.
Right,
so if you will shut up and listen, that would be fantastic.
Maddox,
You operate from.
You don't even know what your point is. You've moved through like 3 different topics without even realizing it.
He's running around with the goalposts, and fuck.
The hilarity of this is that Maddox has essentially touched on like 3 different points in not realizing like how they're different from each other.
Yeah, he's touched on abiogenesis with this enzymes and ribosomes. He's touched on information. He's touched on totally random de novo genes.
Inherent protein structure, and he's also talked about now gene composition for proteins and the toleration of mutations that occur within them.
And now he wants to talk about his favorite little nugget, that little nut that's stuffed in his pouch.
Yeah.
miRNA. He wants to throw that in there just to confuse things a little more.
I'm smart, I'm Mr. PhD, and you don't actually listen to arguments.
Isn't that something?
Oh, okay. So I guess Maddox is going to pull his surprise PhD for us?
Yeah, he's taking all these MIT courses, and he reads 4 or 5 papers a day. Like he's something pretty special.
Everybody knows that's how you get a PhD.
I wonder what he does for a living. I mean, with all these degrees that he has.
I don't know. I mean, Uber must be paying a lot for people with PhDs nowadays, I guess.
I wonder if he teaches genetics at his Uber.
I don't know.
So I'm making the point of what you are suggesting is randomization and has no pre-existing structure potential.
No, that's not quite.
Okay. He doesn't listen.
Or pre-existing structure or function.
I love the look on Dan's face.
being expressed. The point I'm making is that as an example of this misinterpretation and the assumption that's being taken by people such as yourself in so many aspects that keeps getting smacked in the face on a regular basis, is that
Dan's expressions are just fucking amazing. He rolled his eye. Yeah, I think he realizes what he's walked into here.
There's all this stuff that
I think he did this on purpose.
doesn't do anything. And then you find out that it does something. And then it has a specific function. And I'm using microRNAs as an example of that.
Oh my gosh. Please keep it up, because now we're going to the issue of ribosomal pausing.
Yep. He's going to get that's another nugget. That's the old nut that's stuffed in the other.
We started off, for reference sake, we started off by talking about a new protein function, and if that function originates as the result of like completely novel information, such as like a viral insertion, or it being changed like via mutation over generations. And now we're at ribosomal pausing. Holy crap. Okay.
What percent of the genome is that?
Okay. How much of an impact does it have?
I don't know.
Does the percentage?
I mean,
does the percentage or the impact? Does the percentage or the outcome?
I don't know. Point, because
does the percentage does? Okay, we're gonna have to go back to timers with.
Look at this. He muted him. What?
You, buddy. If the answer, the question is not how much is the percentage of the genome. It's what is the functional outcome that it influences. So the question I have for you, and I'll let you respond with microRNAs as the example. Do they dramatically impact thousands of outcomes, even though they're a very minuscule percentage of the genome. Go ahead.
And what does that have to do with anything that's being discussed?
What does thousands of outcomes mean in this particular context?
He's talking about the fact that miRNA is important in tissue determination, basically specification.
Yeah,
miRNAs they find can modify a number of different proteins. So basically, there are seeds on a lot of different proteins, and miRNAs link up with them and match them, and they downregulate them in the translation phase. And this is all that John knows about miRNAs. And I'm not sure if he really understands what that means. But I think he shows that he really doesn't understand embryology and development. But
I'm going to ignore that question because that's not what I came here to talk about.
Right.
And if that's a problem, then I can leave.
It has nothing to do with the conversation. It's so obvious that he's got these a few little nuggets that that he learned about, and he just boldly goes up against a PhD scientist like he's going to win that match, kind of like David and Goliath, sort of, except for the story doesn't turn out as well for John.
It's fine, but I want to go back.
So you're not going to answer the question because you just made a very strong assertion about random.
Yeah, whatever assertion Dan made, by this time the conversation has become so confused by John tossing bullshit out of nowhere into the conversation. Like, what in the fuck does miRNA have to do with de novo proteins?
And in case you weren't confused enough, yes, he did say it. Or he did imply it at the very least, that papers are assertions.
Yeah.
And it's
about random DNA resulting in answering your question. So I'm directly challenging your position, which was that it's all this random
yeah, he hasn't had a chance.
stuff that's now resulting in function.
I haven't even stated my position yet.
You made an assertion. I'm countering your assertion and asking you a direct question, and you're not going to even address the question.
I would like for Smokey to be able, if you want to be able to.
Okay, now Dan turns the conversation back to Smokey Saint and the information argument.
Specifically define what you mean when you said either no, again, I forget the exact word, no information or no new function, whatever it was that you said. Because I can give you examples of different magnitudes that actually fulfill exactly the thing that Smokey said cannot happen. So one example of this is de novo genes that I was describing from long non-coding RNAs. Another example is simply new active sites in proteins. And we could observe those in human lifetimes, like a protein in HIV called VPU that does a completely new thing compared to the viruses that HIV evolved from, the simian immunodeficiency viruses. And it has a new active site, and it requires between 4 and 7 new mutations, and we know what they are. And if any one of them is missing and it doesn't have the new function, it does its old function perfectly normally, doesn't lose anything, but it gained a completely new function.
Is there a degradation of
Nope.
the information over time or no?
No, that's a gain of information over time.
Genetic entropy rears its ugly head.
Okay.
Gained a new function.
Okay, but the information present, does it atrophy or does it? No.
No, we have HIV sequences going back to 1959. And no, so this is a new function that is not present. So HIV came from a virus called SIV, simian immunodeficiency virus, the chimp version of that. And there's gorillas get it and monkeys get it. It's a common thing. HIV came from the chimp SIV. And there's part of the human immune system that works a little bit differently from the chimp. So SIVs can't infect humans. But this new function is one of the things that allowed HIV to make that jump. It's a brand new biochemical function that never existed before in the history of any organism on Earth.
Can you tell me what the information is that was added to add that function?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the amino acids off the top of my head, but it's at least 4 specific mutations in the transmembrane domain of this protein called VPU, and it interacts with a human protein called tethrin.
So So it's an insertion of amino
It's
acids.
not an insertion, it's substitutions. And it takes a region that had no activity, it was purely structural, and it now gives it an activity. And the thing that it does is it neutralizes a human protein.
All right, well, now I'm getting confused because, okay, so it's not an addition, so it's not increasing information, it's substituting information.
Well, it has a new function. So are
Now
we
answer
not
the question,
measuring
Dan.
information?
So in Smokey's defense,
He's trying, Maddox. He's trying.
Smokey doesn't really have a clue, and he doesn't pretend to, I don't think. So he's tired, and I think he just wants to bow out of this thing. But he had to at least state his confusion over it, which is fair.
Is it a substitution or is it an addition?
It's this. The protein is the.
And John apparently wasn't listening. John
No,
should have caught that it was a fucking substitution. He said it was. He told him what it was. With John's superior knowledge of genetics from MIT, he should have been able to figure out what happened to this HIV protein. I do despair. Want to go on?
I guess so. How long? How many minutes are we in?
Let's see. We're at 46. He came in at 33. I think he leaves at about 1 hour and 36. So we got about 56 minutes. We don't have to do it all tonight, but I would like to get into some new.
33, 46.
I've listened to this part maybe about 4 times already because I'm just like, I keep face palming and resetting. It's like, okay, did I hear what I heard?
Yeah.
It's changing the amino acid sequence, which gains a function. Are we now saying that gains of function are not
we're not
increases in
talking about
information?
functions. You keep going to this function.
Okay, this is where Smokey does fuck up. But, we're not talking about function. Well, okay, when these guys talk about new information, they mean function. Don't you think?
Well, the thing is that
Retards?
as knowledgeable as Smokey is on the topic of evolution, he doesn't understand that a gain of function is a gain of information.
Right. Well, it depends on how you want to define information. Okay, if you want to just define it as complexity, you're not talking about function at all. If you're talking about
so I'd probably say
Kolmogorov complexity.
As a biochemist, I would define. I'd say
Okay.
I would define in terms of biochemical activity.
Yeah, I don't know the.
So
I don't know the
activity like changes some biochemical activity or modulates it or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know the protein involved, but it had a certain number of domains. It performed some function. A new domain mutated into existence, basically, and gave it a new function. So if you define function as information, and with creationists, normally that's usually what they're getting at. They want to know how they think information is stuff that does something, basically performs some function. At least that's every place I've ever heard them talk about it. That's what they imply. They never state it clearly. But let's see where this goes.
Function was never even part of my argument, sir.
Okay, so it's information specifically, and that correlates with the length.
Yep.
No. It also correlates with. Did you understand my beginning talk about the language? Did you understand what I was saying about that? How the language.
Did you listen to that part?
I listened to the debate, and the thing is, I love Smokey to death, but honestly, he's trying to talk biochemistry with in this kind of scenario is just not a good idea.
Yeah. Well, I think Smokey he boned up on genetics like 6 hours before the debate. And he must have he's trying to bring in John Maddox's language and programming language and all that bullshit. I'm guessing that's what he did, but yeah, I like Smokey, but me and him are having sort of a bro spat right now. He never responded to me today. I think he's mad at me.
The information is there, the data, the symbols. The more that's transcribed over time, that information that's there in that chain is going to break down.
Can
But
you describe for me an example of what would count as new information? Because what I'm getting here is a substitution that grants new functions doesn't count. But also what I'm getting...
Okay, here's where they equivocate between an insertion, addition of information, and a substitution. And
is if I had, say, a gene duplication, and then one of the copies gained a new function, that also wouldn't count because that isn't actually anything new, but that's an addition, right? Okay. That's an insertion. So...
All right, go ahead, Smokey. You keep getting interrupted, man.
Yeah, I think
he muted him again. Do you see that?
Yep.
What a prick.
Okay. I'm so
I know you're tired, man. Go ahead and respond.
All right. So here's the deal. We have our DNA, our cells, when they are copied, they are transcribed. All the information is transcribed. Is the information that's transcribed of a superior integrity or an inferior integrity than...
Okay, now they're going to run off on a totally different tangent and start talking about...
Well, in this, I mean, it happened also with it happened in the debate with Eric as well, where even though it was explained to Smokey quite clearly, the integrity of the information and the integrity of a function of a protein tends to be correlated with the environment that the protein finds itself in.
Yeah, so Smokey's kind of going off on a tangent where he's talking about cell duplication.
Well, the
duplication of the genome.
The thing is, and it's very typical of Smokey, is he wants it to be very black and white. He wants to know if the information is absolutely increasing or absolutely decreasing.
Okay, what happened here is when Dan mentioned gene duplication, Smokey doesn't have any idea what that was. So he thought he was talking about chromosome duplication. And that's why he's going where he's going. But then John, I think, jumps in and runs with it, even though he should know better. Smokey doesn't know better because Smokey doesn't know genetics, and he never claimed he did. So, but he's confused by the fact that he was talking about gene duplication. So, and
what was before it?
Go ahead, Dan.
I'm muted. I can't say anything.
No, you're not muted.
Oh, no, I'm muted. I can say something. Sorry. So in terms of integrity, does it mess up when it's translating?
Yeah. Will there be errors in transcription?
Not that we can detect. It functions fine. So the answer is no. It doesn't have any.
No. Yeah, no. Again, not about function, because we know that we have error correcting software coded into us. So
not for transcription though.
Wait.
Whoa, hang on.
Transcription doesn't have error.
Okay, here's where John is going to stick his dick in it, basically, with this bullshit about ribosomal error correction.
I think the issue is that he's confusing transcription with translation, isn't he?
Smokey's confusing cell.
No, Maddox.
Oh, Maddox. Yeah, well, no, he's not confusing it. He's got a new paper and he's doubling down because he read something today, on the day that he did this. So he's got another little nut in his squirrel pouch.
Error correcting?
No, RNA
his cute little squirrel cheeks.
Polymerases don't have it. Only DNA polymerases do.
Wait, what?
Okay, let me take a step back. So when you copy your DNA, you're using DNA as a template to make a new strand of DNA, right? That's complementary. The enzymes that do that are DNA-dependent DNA polymerases. They have proofreading, so if they make an error, they can back up, cut it.
So now Dan is responding to what Smokey was asking about chromosome duplication, right?
Yep.
And John is going to take it in an entirely different direction and move the goalpost somewhere else here.
It out and fix it.
Right.
But when you do transcription, you're going from using DNA as a template to make an RNA. The DNA-dependent RNA polymerases don't have proofreading.
Maybe I shouldn't have said transcription. Maybe I should have said duplication.
Right. Hang on, quick insertion here. So you're missing the entire point that he's making. Dan,
I probably
which
used
is
the wrong term.
which is on the cellular duplication over time from the evolutionary perspective. You're now talking about things happening intercellularly in terms of protein synthesis and such. He's talking about overall from the macro view, that from a information theory perspective, there is error correction built in specifically. Now, in the context of transcription,
that's the same thing. If you're talking about information, you'd be talking about the fitness of an organism over time.
Yeah.
Whether or not that overall is increasing or decreasing. Because what you're describing, like this notion of Shannon information again, and like the integrity of, say, like a DNA-dependent DNA polymerase, is an intercellular activity.
Well, at least John realized that Smokey was talking about one thing and they were previously talking about something else.
Well, no, because John just said Smokey is talking about something on a broader scale.
Yeah, and John is doubling down with the goalpost move, basically to chromosome duplication. And like, what the hell does that have to do with it?
We'll find out.
what you're talking about, obviously there are error correction methodologies.
What's
in the
happening?
ribosome, for example, identifying those issues, as I'm sure you're aware. So that's the fallback position on error correction exists in a different component rather than
I mean, the ribosome is probably.
Are you actually suggesting? Okay, are you actually suggesting that the ribosome does not have error correction components for like recognizing?
Here's where he starts talking about the ribosome error correction, and it's hard to say what he's talking about.
Incorrect amino acids and things of that nature.
No, it doesn't do that. The insertion.
There's literally not an injection.
Don't interrupt me. You want an answer or not? It's like the ribosome doesn't have proofreading. The tRNA codon anticodon. It's based on the affinities, and there's some funkiness because the tRNAs use a base called inosine, which is a little wobbly compared to A, U, C, and G. And it's just based on the affinities between them. So
okay, are you suggesting that there are not there's not been research that has specifically delineated that even if
okay, now John thinks now John has another little nut in his cute little squirrel cheeks, and he's gonna like double down because he read something today that he probably misunderstood.
Right, but the thing is, Maddox is confusing. Okay, now Maddox is shifting between like the type of information that polymerases have, which is either RNA dependent or DNA dependent, as compared to the activity of ribosomes, and their ability to error correct is based upon the affinity of
tRNAs.
Of tRNAs and modified nucleobases to bind with them.
Yeah, but once that amino acid is on that chain, the ribosome does not correct it. But I think John is saying that it does. And he's not communicating it very well. And of course, because he has that little nut stuffed deep in his cheek, he's not going to tell us about the paper or what he's talking about. So
codon anticodon matches, but the tRNA has got the wrong.
Maybe he keeps his little nuggets in his butt cheeks. I don't know. It's hard to say.
The incorrect amino acid that the ribosome doesn't eject it.
No, it can eject the tRNA, but in terms of if it inserts the wrong one, which it sounds like you were saying, because I think you used the word proofreading, which is like what the polymerase does.
I don't think I used the word proofreading.
That's what it sounded like.
I said error correction.
Well, error correction implies that it's made the error.
Anyway, does the ribosome have an error correction component in it, even if it has the wrong amino acid?
No. The answer is no. It's based on the tRNA affinity, and if the affinity is too low, it'll eject it before it does the. You are stating clearly. I just want to make sure on this. You are stating that even if codon anticodon is correct, if the tRNA actually has the wrong amino acid, that the ribosome will not eject it. If the tRNA has the wrong amino acid?
Yes.
So if you
didn't pay attention again, because he's talking about essentially a degenerate codon that has lower binding activity than a tRNA that's more abundant within the cellular space. So if there's not a strong enough, if the binding is not proper for one of those tRNAs, it'll be ejected, and the new and one that's better will be recruited in order to fulfill that function.
Right.
We're not talking about different amino acids.
RNA synthetase messes up upstream, then no, it won't mess with it. It won't eject it. And if it inserts the wrong amino acid, it can't go back and fix it afterwards. There are proteins
and that's all that Dan is claiming. That's not gonna, that once that amino acid is inserted, attached to the nascent chain, it is not going to be corrected. That's all he's asserting.
After the ribosome that can deal with the misfolded protein potentially,
Right.
but the ribosome can't fix that.
Okay, well, there's been clear delineation that yes, it can recognize, and what you suggested about the post.
Clear delineation. There's another little phrase that he's been using a lot.
Modifications are also correct, and there's also a directly noticed thing when the error is. Oftentimes, it will terminate the complete synthesis process and start again. So
yeah, that can happen.
Yeah,
yes.
so that's kind of
that
like a
can happen.
proofread, right? Because
Yeah, that happens, but that isn't quite the way he stated it earlier. So I don't know.
Yeah,
we know.
he originally said error correction, not proofreading.
Right. And not ejection, of the partial protein or nascent protein.
No,
that
it's based on the biochemistry.
What's that?
Well, error correction is substitution of the wrong amino acid,
Right.
whereas proofreading is checking for the affinity of a tRNA.
Yeah.
Chemical affinity. What you're saying
No,
is
no,
not
no,
true.
no, no, no. Oh, please. So you're suggesting that that one amino acid that's now wrong, that's going to cause the folding to be incorrect. You're saying that is a known affinity just purely from chemical reaction when when the final outcome hasn't occurred yet.
Yeah, because what could happen is there's a
Okay.
little
Oh,
chunk.
okay. Anyway, let's move on to the next.
There's an answer.
A few minutes ago, you stated that doesn't that there is no function like that. Now you're saying that there is one, and you're trying to circumvent the whole premise of the outcome. But anyway,
The whole premise.
The whole premise, meaning the whole argument. John hasn't learned the difference between a premise and an argument.
Right. He uses premise for fact. He uses premise for arguments. Conclusion.
Dan, could I just interject something just real
Yeah,
quick?
please. And then I'd love to ask you, I still want to figure out what you mean by information, but yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. Just so you, and again, I am tired, and I know probably your intentions are good, but just so you know, when you go into you are clearly very educated, very scholastically on some of these topics. Sometimes the way that you're trying to come
That's a fucking understatement, right?
Yeah.
across in your explanations to us, who are a majority of laymen, and it seems like what's happening is, and I'm not saying you're intentionally doing this,
Oh, God.
but
This is kind of a lame charge from Smokey.
This-
It's just, come on,
this-
Smokey, you're
this-
tired, go to sleep. Huh?
This is Smokey's way of saying, fuck the science, I want the simple answer.
Right. Smokey,
That
should
is exactly what this is.
go sleep.
Because I've heard
Smokey.
the exact same thing before.
Oh, you have? Yeah.
I've found myself it's been very, very difficult. You're almost trying to be hyper technical with me instead of really understanding what I'm saying. And it might just be because we're from two very different worldviews. I'm much more lower level than you, and I'm willing to give you that consideration. So
Oh, shit.
what I'm trying to do here is I hope you'll give me a little bit of credit for basically my temperament, my position, and the fact that it's late and I'm exhausted. This has been a horrible week. Okay, so here's the deal.
Smokey uses his temperament as an excuse quite often.
Well, yeah, I mean, remember what he did with you regarding, certain things. Like a very common behavior with Smokey is that a very common behavior with Smokey tends to be that his reaction with a person isn't always based upon what the person says, but it's how the person comes across or how he feels the person comes across at a particular point in time.
Or how tired he is, or, you know.
Yeah. So if Smokey is pissed off and you say something that challenges him, for instance, he's going to view you as, you know, a demon from hell.
Even if he's pissed off at somebody else like Darth Dawkins. And you know what, Smokey? You know, that's your fucking business. You know, if you're angry or, you know, your temperament is off or whatever, you know, it's not my fucking problem. I'm not going to change what I put out on my channel just because you have a little temperament problem. And I hope I said that politely, because I don't mean to, you know, turn up
not
the heat.
that. I mean, don't take your temperament out on people who are trying to have an interaction with you, you know,
Right.
trying to better understand your view. And just because you misconstrue, or, you know, the fact that you don't interpret something in the most honest possible way means a person's being disingenuous.
Yeah. Anyway, just had to get that out. Hopefully, Smokey, you will take that as advice and not some sort of attack.
I'm just going to try to really make this as simple as I can. Okay. Everything in our universe breaks down. Now, if you want to try and make a claim
Oh my
of
God,
open
second
system,
law.
closed system, compare the systems, and then see whether or not there's something that we could attribute to atrophy and have that debate, fine. That's not what I was there to have tonight. Okay. This was an evolution debate. Okay. And if anything, that was a light example. So what I was pitching to you is when I was saying, when the DNA is duplicated and we get a new cell, is the integrity of that duplicated information the same, inferior, or superior than its predecessor?
So so first of all, I want to say that the point you make is a very fair point, and I apologize for coming off that way. My reason for giving you specific examples is to try to really like hone in on the question of, well, if, you know, does a thing happen? Well, rather than talk about it abstractly, we can say, okay, here's an example. Does this count? Here's a slightly different example. Does that count? So that's my intention there. I don't mean to alienate anyone by using.
Well, it
specific
feels
examples.
way outside of what I could actually grasp to actually answer my question. That's what it feels like to me.
Gotcha.
And again, it could just be you, because you're talking your technical language and you've learned it, and you're every right to do so. And I know even me, when I'm talking to some people who might be less theologically adept, I have to slow it down, because I might be using terminologies or definitions or even ideas or philosophies they've never even heard before. So like, just for my sake, like when I'm because again, I am a layman, and I do expect, here's the thing, I have an expectation for the doctors, the PhDs, the biochemists, whoever they are, to when they're going to tell me why I should believe something or why I should change, you know, what I've believed or interpreted from the information, that they're going to be able to make the argument coherent for me to understand. Just like the argument that convinced me to believe what I currently believe was coherent enough to understand. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I'm saying I look at my universe, and I'm, again, from the layman, you know, but I'm looking at it, go with a naturalistic worldview if you want to. Let's go ahead and take God out of it. I'm looking at the world around me. In nowhere do I see things improving, getting towards more order, information getting better, there's always seems to be constantly a degradation. And so when I'm looking at the evolutionary model, and maybe we don't have to be specific, maybe it could be a little more general, because to me, again, layman, maybe it is more general. But I look at the whole model. I look at the whole model stepping back from it, not really fixated so heavily on the minutia. And I say, does this really make philosophical sense with what it's demanding its presupposition to be, which is essentially, to me, naturalism? And like, that's okay to me. If naturalism could solve a lot of these issues, in fact, if naturalism could even hypothesize a lot of these issues that, to me, again, kind of as the layman, are just kind of basic philosophical objections. That's what I'm looking for to be convinced. I mean, again, understand I was an atheist. I don't think I'm an irrational man. And not only was I an atheist, I was all types of different atheists, no matter what you can consider the definition. From hard atheist to solipsist to agnostic to nihilist. I mean, you name it, I probably was on the spectrum. But that's because I was willing to be swayed with the better arguments. So this is where I landed, because these were the arguments that made sense to me. So when I'm telling you, I look around me, I see everything's degrading. I look at our bodies, I see everything's degrading. I look at our genomes over time and I see them getting less sustainable, less substantial, prone to more mutations.
What in the hell? What is this evidence for that?
The fact that we age. The thing is, like, what Smokey seems to be considering is the fact that like, over time, human beings degrade over time. Like, our health state will degrade as we get old enough due to senescence and other things. But that isn't evolution. Like, what's actually being asked here is about populations, not about individuals. Like, we're talking about the fitness of populations. And like, when Dan was trying to ask you earlier about, for instance, what do you consider an increase of information? Do you like, what is a change of information an increase of information, or is it just pre-existing within the genome? The thing is, like, at least from my perspective, you weren't very clear in how you were using that term in the context of the conversation with Dan.
I mean, this whole idea that we're degrading or that we're losing information, I mean, it all comes from Sanford's genetic entropy bullshit. And like I said, cancer has been decreasing since 1990, and that's the number of cases that are occurring basically have been decreasing since 1990. And then their other favorite, what is it, autism, is getting higher because they've changed the standards of judging or diagnosing autism, and they're working harder at it. They're actually interviewing parents now and asking them questions to find out if they can catch it early, to find out if you're on the spectrum. Jesus.
Standing once the source for cancer rates.
Yeah. Go and look at the national. It's Google it. I'll pull a John Maddox on you. You can Google that. You can look at the rates. You'll see a spike in 1990, which is about probably the maximum that we got to for smoking and for carbon emissions in the atmosphere. And since then, we've been coming down, and so has cancer. And yes, I have a link, but I'm not going to get it to you now, Standing.
Hold on, I find it.
You can go suck it, Standing. I predict that it's false. It's increasing. Cancer is increasing. It's bullshit. The other reason that it increased up until 1990 is we were living longer. And if you live long enough, you will get cancer. It's inevitable. You live until you're 100, you'll have some kind of cancer. I mean, geez, let it go. You guys have no statistics to back this stuff up. Duplicated copy of a gene wouldn't count as an addition. However, the loss of a copy would count as a loss. They never explained that mangled logic. Let's see here. Oh, what? Going to send me the sources to those speciation rates you pulled out of your ass? Standing predicts that it's false. Go ahead, predict all you want. Go look at the damn rates. I looked at it, and I was surprised that cancer peaked in 1990. I thought that was right around the time our emission standards were put in place, or we derived the benefit from them. And there are a bunch of prostate cancer and lung cancer have plummeted. And for some reason, some other cancers like thyroid and stomach have pretty much stayed flat, have not increased at all. And for this genetic entropy thing, we're not going to see results over a period of 50 years anyway, even if it were true. So I don't know. This is just the kind of bullshit that he puts in his book. Let's see. What do we got here? We got something else from Standing. Duplicating a copy of a gene has been accumulating mutations is not a net gain of functional. Okay, here now. Standing is going to use functional information. Emo. Oh, he's calling him a name. Standing for truth. Don't call my friend's name in my chat. Names in my chat. We get to call you names. But if you call us names, that's not fair.
And if you're going to call people names on the channel, expect the moderation that your moderators give us on your channel.
Yeah. And no saying goddamn or anything like that or swearing and stuff. We don't allow that from our creationist friends. At least he still has a sense of humor. You may not have a sense of humor after we get done with your book. I left him a review today. It was a good one.
All right. I found one such paper that goes through it.
I have one somewhere in my workflowy thing here, but
this is CSR Cancer Statistics Review. Let me get back to the channel.
Do you have how do I give you a wrench?
Let me show up in chat and then I will, you can give it to me.
Are you doing private chat? Or
hold on one sec. I'm trying to find your channel so I can
chat.
So I can get a wrench. So I can be wrenched.
I can give you a link.
Let's see.
A link?
Let's see.
Oh, if I link my own channel in my own chat, will we end up in an infinite loop?
Okay, can you see? Yeah, you can see me.
Oh, okay.
So I think if you go to the YouTube chat, you go to the little colon, the little 3 dots thing.
Yeah.
And I think you can make somebody a moderator that way.
Put user in timeout and block user. Okay. So I'm on the YouTube channel. Oh, let's see. Okay, 3 little dots there. Put user in timeout, report, remove, add moderator. There you go.
There you go. Let's see.
Yeah.
Are we good now?
I want to put you in timeout. Can I? Can I?
Okay, so this is one such cancer CSR cancer statistics review. This goes through, I believe it's, it goes from 1950 to 2017, I believe. By the way, it starts the actual statistics around page 34, I think.
Oh my God. I have a nice little chart that shows it. What do we got? 1950, 1983. So let's see, total percentage change minus what? Primary cancer sites. I don't know. He can look at it. When we get into his book, we'll hit the genetic entropy part and we will show you that basically. There's that. We're on page 34. Let's see. Yeah, these are U.S. Okay, these are mortality. We don't want mortality rates. We want diagnosis rates. So are those on top? Primary cancer sites combined. These are death rates, and they're going to go down. So I was looking at the diagnosis rates. Let's see, 5 relative survival. These are just death rates. That's all they care about. That's a problem. So I have something, I don't think we want to divert to that right now. What do you think? I'd have to go search for it.
No, it's something we can do later.
Yeah. Yeah, Standing, you can go suck it. I love telling him that. Okay, moving on. Whoops. The hell?
more errors, prone to more breakdowns. These are the things that me, from the bigger picture, I'm looking at. Can you appreciate that from my perspective?
Absolutely, and that's a really good point. I appreciate you clarifying, because it clarifies why there's a disconnect in our conversation here. Because I'm hearing from you like a 30,000-foot view of things, but I hear entropy, second law of thermodynamics, and I'm thinking all about thermodynamic stability and the tendency of a system, whether that's a cell or an organism or a molecule or a pool of molecules or whatever, to move towards a state that is more stable, right? Which is to say, has less potential energy.
Right.
And the solution to that is just add more energy, right? And like, as long as you're adding energy into it, you can store more potential energy, which is violating the second law of thermodynamics. And like, that's what living things do. We are energy storage machines first and foremost, right? We're taking molecules in one form and we're turning them into something else. And like, that's just what we do. And we're constantly absorbing energy that ultimately comes from the sun for that. So this actually gets at the point that I came in here to make. And then I'm going to scoot and I'll let Erica take over, and I hope everyone has a great night. But my point is, when you're making an anti-evolution argument, I would ask that you try, and this is not just for you, Smokey, this is for everybody. And like, Standing just said something about hominin species a few minutes ago that also falls into this category, that it's make the, I mean, if your goal is to reassure people who already agree with you, then like, fine, whatever, go nuts. But if your goal is to convince people who don't already agree with you, make the best version of the argument, not the obviously not correct version of the argument. So like, what you just said was much more subtle than everything always degrades due to the second law of thermodynamics. And saying that everything always degrades, I mean, that's just not true. And again, I want to make this is not unique to you. This is
according to the law of thermodynamics, where energy is lost over time.
Well, right. The energy lost is the important part of that, though.
Right. And you said, well, just add more energy. Where does that energy come from?
The sun.
Okay. Well. Okay.
The energy comes from the sun. Ultimately, that's where all the energy for everything on Earth comes from. Well, there's hydrothermal energy too, so I shouldn't say all, but most comes from the sun.
The sun is breaking down. The sun.
I mean, yeah, we got a lot of it, but
sort of. It has
where
5
will the energy to which the sun come from?
It won't. We're going to go extinct unless we find somewhere else to live.
So the sun is breaking down. The energy from the sun is breaking down. The energy that is provided to the plants, therefore, is also, by extension, breaking down.
Yeah, I mean, we got a while, but yeah.
Okay. So you see where I'm coming from here.
Okay.
Even if you wanted.
What exactly is his point? Because stars have a finite lifespan, therefore everything is degrading in information?
Yeah, just
That's so...
Smokey should go to sleep now.
Yeah, he needs... Yeah.
Yeah, he's not doing his best here, so we'll have to give him a break. He needs coffee or something. Okay.
To try to say open system, closed system, applies, doesn't apply.
It gets more
You're
interesting
not going
later.
to be able to separate it ever from the extenuating factors of the effects of the laws of second law of thermodynamics.
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, you can, I guess you can make the claim, and I guess you can philosophize about it, but to me, it's not coherent.
No, because the time frames are so the time frames are so different. The time scales for the cycle of a lifetime of a star versus, life on Earth. It's not even comparable. So that doesn't matter.
Well, no, my main point was that second law of thermodynamics, that issue, even if you just want to say, okay, it's energy, there's no replenishment of energy in the universe. And there's no replenishment of energy in any of these isolated systems. They're all losing energy. All of them. Like
Earth is not. Earth is gaining energy.
Are you talking about global warming? Is this
No,
this is just sad. It's the common misunderstanding of this second law business.
The Earth is gaining energy from the sun.
Yep.
Light from the sun, which is energy, shines down on Earth and heats us.
Yeah, and that isn't coherent. And these are the things that I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it tonight.
So, like, we are gaining energy from the sun. Like, we are constantly being bombarded with energy.
I feel like it's just maybe we're just not having the same.
I don't want to get bogged down in the
don't
specifics.
know.
What I'm saying is that as someone who disagrees with you, I hear you say second law of thermodynamics, and like that doesn't compute for me. And I'll give you another example that's not yours. This is something Standing said a few minutes ago with human evolution, saying that, like, well, we have Floresiensis and Heidelbergensis and Neanderthals and Erectus and Denisovans and all those stuff. And, well, we see that, you know, most of them coexisted and they weren't really ancestors, but like no biologist puts them in a row, one after the other, all in a row. Like, so saying that there's ambiguity in which things overlapped with which things and what species a particular skeleton might be, like, that is true. But then using that to say, therefore, we have no idea like how human evolution works, that just doesn't work. Like, if a you know, an anthropologist or paleontologist or biologist hears that, you just go like, okay, that doesn't make any sense. I'm going to ignore you. And it's my point is just, if you're going to make an argument where you're saying this well-established scientific idea is wrong, please make the strongest form of the argument. Like, don't make it so like, if the ultimate goal is to convince people that creation is right and evolution is wrong, don't make it so easy for people to ignore you because you don't sound serious, is the point I'm trying to make. Because, like, I listen to these debates and I really do want to hear serious arguments on both sides. And a lot of times I don't, because, like, and I know, but like, I'm a biologist, people in the field, like, they laugh this stuff. Like, people read Jensen's books, for example, Replacing Darwin, for example, and like, it's honestly, like, it's not worth taking seriously. The arguments are just not serious. And it's like, that's the point I'm making. Like, if you're trying to convince people rather than cater to the audience that already agrees with you, make better arguments. That's all I wanted to say.
Dan, I think that's kind of garbage, for real.
You know,
The reason why I say that's garbage is because you make those claims that everything in evolution lines up perfectly, and you say you.
Who's this brilliant guy here?
Oh my god! The man, the myth, the legend, the troll, C. Brown. Oh, here we go.
Charlie Brown. So who is this
Oh no, Chris Brown.
dude? Oh my god! So he's a legend, eh?
He's notorious in our community for just not sure if he's trolling or just doesn't have any brain cells left.
Okay, he's like an aging version of G-Man or something.
He's kind of like a Black Maddox.
Yeah.
You can tell by the rocks, you can tell by the dates, you can tell by everything. You line them up, and when they don't work, then you try you execute a rescue mission, and you try to flip it around. Okay, the bottom line is, as far as human evolution is concerned, the majority of fossils that you're finding, when you call them specimens only refer to a bone. It doesn't refer to a bunch of species. It refers to a bone.
Should we skip this guy?
Now you're finding all these bones that's not even connected. Okay, and then you're finding bones scattered. Okay, you're finding bones in mixed bone beds. You're piecing things together.
Oh my
Every
god!
single facet of the evolution from Australopithecus to humans has been debunked, not by creationists, by the guys that's finding it. The guys that's making the money for the discoveries are debunking each other. Okay, it's all in the literature. So just the idea that you said we making poor arguments, you're making arguments that.
Oh my god, he's defending their arguments. Is a clone car just rolled up and this dude fell out?
Yeah, basically. That's the thing is, that argument is I'm not going to. I'm gonna end up saying something I regret, and I'm not saying it.
Yeah, you better be careful.
I'm not saying it.
Good. Private chat, dude.
I'm not.
Bones found in dirt, okay, that's scattered, that's not found in the right places, because when it's found in the right places, then you change the dates. So these are the arguments that you're making. I find it very condescending for you to say we need to make better arguments when the whole idea of human evolution, the whole idea of a
whole thing,
stupid chimp that swings in a tree that can evolve into a human with roles, neurons, and all this intelligence that can build spaceships with no real solid selective pressures, then that can actually do that. It's like you're trying to use the worst.
I feel like I'm doing this guy a disfavor letting him talk.
I feel like I'm losing brain cells like by the
yeah, the whole conversation just took a dive downwards with this dude. And the thing is that no matter how crazy and idiotic the guest that hops in, as long as he agrees with their creationist biblical bullshit, they will agree with him, and it'll be like amen, you know, just oh man.
Examples. And then you're trying to say that we're making poor arguments, that they're laughing.
This guy a preacher?
No, he's just he used to mostly just engage in the comment section. Okay. RJ is very familiar with this individual.
Oh, yeah, RJ's mentioned him. Oh yeah, RJ has done a thing on him.
Yeah, he's just
too bad RJ left. He would love this.
It's just insane. Like the level. Okay, yeah. So I did look up another thing on cancer statistics. The death rate is going up. Let's see, diagnosis.
Death rate was going down, I thought.
Not according to this.
Really?
This is death by cancer. Let me see. I'd have to find the diagnosis one. Let's see. It's in the private chat. Well, it will be. Is Athena in our private chat? No, he's not.
No, he didn't show up. I did send him an invite.
Well, fuck him.
Yeah, let me pick this up here. Okay.
I think we should stop soon before I end up.
Well, I want you to. I want to get through the C. Brown shit and get to the part where LPP refuses to give the paper, and then we can quit for the night. How about that?
How much longer is C. Brown in here? Because it's.
I don't know. Should I fast forward him?
No, it's just if it's a minute or so, like that he's doing this, that's fine. But
let's see. Let's go out here a little bit. I think
for the overall discussion.
Okay,
that's the whole point.
Here we go.
I'm just
all the extenuating circumstances in order to say, ignoring all those extenuating circumstances, I think you should have made a better argument in your debate. Now, if the argument needed to be about closed systems, open systems, or your perspective of that, and you wanted to educate me on your perspective, I think that's what you wanted to do. That's what you would have done. But you came in here to basically make the ultimate point. You people make better arguments. And we sit here in frustration and agony and desperation, hoping that you guys at some point will make some sort of cohesive, coherent argument to us. So when you come in and say something like that, it's dismissive. Not only of my situation.
He's trying to be nice to him. He's trying to tell him that your arguments are shit, and they are. And God.
I don't understand where people like Smokey get off with this kind of argument. Oh, well, you need to make it so that the layman can understand the argument. Because, oh, poor me, I can't understand these things. They're just making things up, so I have to believe it.
Yep.
Here's an idea. There's plenty of ways to get free books and to get access to this kind of information. I mean, Wikipedia isn't the best source in the world, but it's a running start. It's if you are so interested in having these debates and just so interested in finding out if your position is right or not right, look the damn thing up.
Yeah.
Like, do your own digging and stop complaining that people who are more educated than you are having to oversimplify things to try and make it so that you can understand it.
Let's see. Okay.
Personally, for the
John
evening,
gets into it here.
but the way we also view you. Now, if the conversation needs to devolve into basically how we view each other in order to make a point and how substantive we think those
Now Smokey's threatening him, basically.
I don't know where like this came from either.
are extenuating circumstances aside, I don't think you're ultimately making the point you think you are. With that, I yield.
Yeah, they don't like being told their arguments suck.
I just want to say that I assure you I did not have any ill intentions. I literally came in to say the same thing I said in another after show, I don't know, 3 weeks ago maybe. It's like, yeah, I said this before. It's the thing I've noticed. So that's really it. It was nothing specific about you, your situation. I don't know. I know this debate went sideways and there was a last minute change of personnel, but I don't honestly know.
You have a lot of speciality, you have a lot of knowledge, and I bet you have some fundamental issues with theology as a whole. Maybe you want to come on my channel
and here comes the ultimate conspiracy
topic that has absolutely nothing to do with biology or science whatsoever, but maybe God, theology, history, or culture.
Probably not, because I'm in here I'm all about talking science.
Oh,
sorry.
Okay, so that's all that matters. Okay, beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's where
if there was a God, you wouldn't be able to find it anyway then.
I mean, I don't even, honestly, I don't even have the theological argument because it's a scientific.
What the hell was that about?
Well, remember, Smokey views naturalism as an untenable position to hold. And, I don't know. I don't know why Smokey is getting so pissed off, like with this menial point when he said, "I'm just here to talk about the scientific aspects of it."
Yep.
Like, oh well, yeah. Well, you're saying science is all there is, then, huh? Huh? It's like,
yeah.
That's not what was said.
He's not taking the criticism gracefully, obviously. So, for some reason. Let's see. Reductive evolution. I'm trying to find something at the same time here. Okay, let's. Maddox gets his thing on here shortly, I think.
Like evolution versus creation is a scientific question.
But but science would never reveal a God or the non-existence of a God, right? I mean, that's not.
I don't think. Well, like I'm saying, I don't think it's relevant to the question, and I'm not going to have a theological debate now, and I'm not going to have a theological debate on your channel because it's just not relevant to the question of how long has humans existed.
I'll just respond about you after you go. That's fine.
That's fair. That's fair. You're welcome to talk about me after I leave. John, thank you for having me on.
You're welcome. Hey, Dan, before you go, and this also goes out to CRISPR, who's been talking trash in the chat. I specifically stated earlier that questioned, are you sure there's no error correction directly in the ribosome? And
here we go.
I'm just going to leave it at, I suggest you go and do some additional research in the last 2 years, because I'm currently looking at a paper directly on this subject. So just as a sidebar. So I know it's late. I'm just saying, I would suggest you go do a little bit of research. You made a very strong assertion when I directly questioned you on that. So you might want to do a little research on it.
If you get a reference for me, I'll look it up. But if you're just going to like play cat and mouse with like, go look for something in the last 2 years, then like I'm not going to play that game. I'll catch it when I'm doing a lit review, but otherwise like I'm not going to do that. So you can send me the reference.
Well then don't make such strong assertions, buddy. Then if you're not going to go, if you're not willing to go make sure that you're not full of shit, and you're going to say that I am, and that nobody thinks that, then when I already knew that I'd looked at the papers before.
Why don't you tell me the author, the year, and the
No, in this context, I'm going to let you go do the
Hear that? Tell me the author and the title, author and year. I mean, is that asking too much?
No, but remember,
research
the issue with John is that if he gives up his information, people can look up what he's saying and conclude, even without doing it, he's full of shit.
Yep. Because dear John is a fucking idiot.
You talk a big game, buddy, about my knowledge and our knowledge, and then when you're directly questioned on stuff, you double down. So you might want to go do some of that research before you double down next time.
Really
John,
good
I
example of what
think
I'm
the
talking
other
about.
issue with
You're
you as
trying
well
to win a scientific argument.
claims
That what?
is that he keeps changing claims without recognizing it.
Yeah, and he's a fucking idiot, and he's not just an idiot. I mean, he's an arrogant asshole, and I can't. This really irritated me.
Argument, you don't do it by being petty. You do it by providing.
You literally earlier today claimed expertise, and that no, it's not, and just were very dismissive of the point that I made and tried to get clarification on multiple times, made multiple caveats and multiple direct questions.
He was dismissive, John, because you're a fucking idiot.
And you dismissed it. So who? Okay, anyway, we'll discuss this in a further date. I know it's late. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight. We'll save it for another time.
Is the paper that you have in front of you, if you can check because you have it in front of you, does it show that if the ribosome inserts a wrong amino acid, it retracts the polypeptide, cuts it out, and puts on the right one?
There's actually multiple steps in error correction. No. Go research for yourself. When we had this discussion, I want you to be ready to go. And I already know what it says. I want you to go do some research so that next time we have this conversation, we can be on the same playing field, buddy.
I would think you'd want to present me with the paper that proves I'm wrong.
I will, actually. When we have that conversation, I will.
You know what you'll hear me say when you do that?
What's that?
You're right. That's really cool. Thanks for letting me know.
Okay.
That's what I'll say if you can show me that.
Dan,
and
you dismiss the entire premise of the logic behind why it's so relevant to the overall discussion. That's the whole point. You're dismissing.
Easy win, John. Just take it.
And I mean, even if it were true, what the hell was the relevance to that? What relevance did it have to the discussion of de novo genes and information? Can you figure that out?
I don't know. The thing I don't understand about Maddox in this particular context is what is the point exactly of just having like this tough guy illusion?
Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll be on the same playing field after the PhD evolutionary biologist gets the same information that the great fucking John Maddox has. I mean, what is wrong with this dude? God,
it's just,
is this part of the Christian program?
It makes you think that these people live in a fantasy land of projection complexes.
They do. They're and then they try to project. They try to talk about projection complexes, and they never go look in the mirror. I mean, what is wrong with them? I listened to him, and like if you go back and play some of the like that conversation he had with you, he's not making any sense at all. And when he had previous conversations with Dan, he said things that were just so indicative that he does not know this field. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing this field. It takes years of study to figure this stuff out, and you still don't know everything that's coming out. What's wrong with it is when you don't know that you don't know. Right?
Well, it's a more fundamental issue than that. The issue is claiming to know something that you don't understand.
Yeah, right.
But
he believes he does because he doesn't know enough about it to know how much there is to know, right?
Pretty much. And look, I mean, not knowing something is fine. People aren't going to break down on you for not knowing something. Yeah. People are going to break down on you when you don't know something, but you pretend as if though you do.
That's the problem.
You try to present arguments based upon what is quite obvious to people who do know it, your ignorance.
Go ahead.
And the issue is, like, even standing at some points will step down and just say, you know what? Like, let's continue this at a different point in time, which is his way of conceding.
Well, rabbit hole. When they say rabbit hole, that means you've hit the bottom of their knowledge bin.
Well, it means that what their source material has can't go further.
Right.
none of this is new to anybody, but it's just we keep seeing like the same themes with, particularly like with Maddox and how he engages in conversation and things that just continuously seem to be points of contention or points of just blowing up where it's not necessary in his hangouts.
Yeah. Let's finish this.
Do you want to finish now and just start it just start it back tomorrow?
We could end now, but yeah, we could end now. But there's one thing that I want to show you before we end.
Okay.
And this is from the American Cancer Society. So let's see, share screen. I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to share the audio. Cancer Statistics Siegel. This ACS journals. Or is it? Oh, why can't I find it? I am working on it. Problem with StreamYard is you have to currently, it has to be the most current thing. Otherwise you can't find it. Let's see, quickly. Cancer Statistics Siegel, is that the one? That is not it. It could be.
Boy, Jesus.
Why can't I find it? See if this is it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, you see that?
Yeah.
Okay. This is incidence of, let's see, I think we have this, got breast cancer. Look at that. Is that big enough? Or does it need to be bigger?
Yeah, I think it's good.
Okay. Anyway, so right here in 1990, we got our peaks for prostate and lung cancer. Everything's been going down since then. It looks like melanoma of the skin has been going up. That's about the only one. And we know that's not genetic entropy. That's Florida.
Yeah. That's one of the main ones.
And these are mildly increasing, and it could be, who knows, diet, whatever, environment. But I mean, they're not rising. Lung and bronchus going down, so they're all going down. And this is ACS, American Cancer Society. And these are diagnoses. These are up here we have death. So this is mortality. That's obviously going to go down. But this is actual. So breast cancer, is kind of holding steady, but it's, not particularly, there's not a sharp rise. So I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They're, it's the old gloom and doom thing. Oh, we're dying more. You're hearing about it more probably, but we're not dying more. We're actually doing a pretty good job. See, for death, we're actually really doing a very good job, basically, for mortality. So it's going down for cancers. Anyway, I wanted to show that. So we'll end this and chat a little bit.
Yep.
I think John, I don't know, I'll review it tomorrow. Maybe we'll get to it tomorrow night. We'll do a Saturday night at the Atheist tomorrow night, hopefully.
Yep.
Maybe Just a Fish will stop in. Okay, goodbye.
Bye-bye.